talk about 20, 25 minutes, maybe less. And I was going to get Nick on stage just to kind of crack wise a little bit about maybe some of the things I bring up. So the format is I'm going to show you why I think this matters. I'm going to show you 3 ways that you can start using it today in your business, and then Q&A or whatever. So the person that I was going to talk to, who's not sitting here, if he's in the other room, is Mike. So you guys know Mike, he owns a towing company and a box floor company.
Mike Lumix.
Yeah, Mike Lumix. When I wrote this, I was like, I don't want to write a WeWork, Tech Bro, SaaS, VC, AI conversation. I want to write, Mike, you're in a dogfight to make payroll every month. How should you be using AI? Not pie in the sky, ones and zeros. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But the 2 drivers of my obsession with AI, just talking about them specifically, and it's going to tie into a larger theme that you'll hear me reference a lot, is first, I like the idea of being a pirate. I never had any money. So I left the government. I made $41,000 a year when I left the government. And so entering business, I had to be a pirate. I didn't even know you could raise money, didn't know any of this stuff. And so I got very young, got very obsessed with trying to be like a little bit more clever. A lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, it's like if I had a $225,000 junior analyst, I wouldn't have to do any of this shit. But like, I was buying, can I curse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
I was
popular
buying
out there.
small companies. I'm not going to we're not saving babies in Africa. I can't underpay people and still have really good people. I have to do people with substance abuse problems. That's my topic, right? So I had to adopt a mindset of being scrappy, knife fightery, right? So that was kind of the start of this whole thing. Second thing is I'm terrifically lazy. So I don't like working that hard. So this was going to be a graphic on something like Twitter or whatever, but I decided, I think I changed messing with Huber or something. But this was a draft version of my theme, which is being on a beach, but working with a great mustache. I'm not that handsome, but I don't say AI. So, hey, it's AI, hey!
Yeah, you are.
Bingo! Okay, so the theme of everything that we're going to talk about is leverage. Naval Ravikant's definition of leverage. So raise your hand if you've read How to Get Rich Without Getting Lucky. If you haven't, it's by Naval Ravikant, incredible story. So he talks about 4 forms of leverage, okay? And we're going to be talking about them a lot today in different versions. So there's 2 old school forms and 2 new school forms, okay? Old school forms of leverage. And so leverage in this case is not debt. Leverage is like lever arm or lever arm, I don't want to say that. Meaning small input, big output, right? I do something small and I get a big output for it. So I became obsessed with leverage. And there's 4 types, old school and new school. Old school leverage, first form of leverage, labor leverage. Oh, hey, Mike made it. Mike, I referenced you. I said, the talk today is why Mike, who's running real businesses, should care about AI, not tech bros and WeWork. So 4 types of leverage, old school, new school. Labor leverage, meaning I hire a bunch of people, right? I never had the budget to hire a bunch of people, but I did end up hiring a lot of global talent, which was my form of labor leverage, and I was able to get big outputs with small inputs, right? We're going to talk about global talent a little bit about this. Second type, capital, right? You can actually track leverage through history. So labor was the first type, and capital had a JP Morgan mechanism, money, right? Capital. And then the 2 new school forms of leverage are called permissionless leverage. And the characteristic of permissionless leverage is no marginal cost of replication. So the first form of permissionless leverage is code, right? And code can be, in the way that I use it, automation, no code, Airtable, Zapier. I build it once and it makes me money fucking forever, right? No marginal cost of replication. Second form, Twitter, media. I write 1 tweet and whether 10 people read it or 1 million people read it, right? Those sweet info products, right? No marginal cost of replication. So you can make a ton of money if you become obsessed with the 4 forms of leverage. AI and automation, which I'm going to use, they're not all interchangeable, but I'm using them interchangeably today, is a form of code leverage, right? Because if I teach an AI to do something, if I integrate AI, we were talking about this today, which is to grow revenue in a tree trimming company, I increase my brain damage as I increase my revenue. It's like a 1-to-1 level. I mean, occasionally you hit certain, lines or whatever, but when you're slanging info products, right? It's just no marginal cost of replication. You make a lot of money. That's why people obsess with info products, right? Okay, so 4 types of leverage. My perspective, I don't know anything about actual AI. So does anybody here speak German? Okay, well, in my old job, they taught me Arabic, and there's like Fusha, like higher, right? And then there's like low Arabic, which is what everybody speaks. So it's super cool speaking like Quranic Arabic. It doesn't work, PS. So you have to learn the low language. Same thing in it's called like Überdeutsch, I think, right? Did I get that right? Überdeutsch. It's like academic German versus like practical German. And so I would say I'm really good at low AI. Like I don't know shit about like ones and zeros. I was an international relations major, right? But I think I'm really good at practical AI. Like how to actually use it today to make me more money, save me money. So if somebody comes up to me and they're like, I've got a new language model, I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. But if somebody's like, I'm using this in my epoxy floor company to cut down my overhead, I'm like, ooh, Johnny liked it. Right? So low AI. Second, AI is a level. So my favorite model for AI is it makes everything B+. Right? Now, and I'm going to show you some examples. For me, I've been writing my whole life. In its raw form, I'm an A writer. I'm not as good as Nick, but I'm an A- A writer. But for somebody who's a entry-level white-collar worker at a small business, that is 3 grades above the way they write, right? So I think of AI as a leveler. It's not necessarily taking my top tier and making it better unless you use it in some different ways. So my perspective, I think of AI as a leveler, not as like a A- to A+. I think of it as a guy who's speaking in a second language about global talent, which we're going to talk about, now being able to write me drip emails that are pretty dang good. They're not Ogilvy, right? If you know who that is, like they're not copywritten emails, but it's better than nothing, right? So, okay, low AI, AI is low. Okay, why it matters. And I'm going to talk about a couple kind of like macro factors here why I think this is worth your time, even as a busy person like knife fighting to make payroll. The people who made money with refrigeration weren't the refrigeration guys. It's Coca-Cola, right? Did Amazon invent the internet? No, they just learned to use it better than everybody else, right? And so we're going to talk about kind of applications of AI in order to create advantage in a competitive marketplace to drive margins, whatever, not as an end in and of itself, right? Amazon won because it learned to use the internet better than anybody else, not because it invented the internet. Now you can still make a lot of money doing the first stuff, right? You can own an ISP or people who started the first web servers or whatever. But Amazon was applied internet. And so we're going to be talking about applied AI in the way that I think of it. Over time, this will all get competed away. But for 10 years, no tree trimming companies are using AI, right? So it will get competed away, it will become table stakes. Same with global talent. Over time, it will become table stakes, it will get competed away, but there are still companies now that don't use the internet, right? So there's a window here, and the reason why that's important is if you go to, I think it's the next slide, disruptive innovation, right? Like Christensen stuff. There's a reshuffling when new technology enters the marketplace. There's a reshuffling, right? So the same players get disrupted. So the 2 ways that I think about using AI right now for a brick and mortar, I'm just gonna alternate because like I've got like a tree trimmer and an epoxy flooring towing guy. So I'm just gonna like, and probably and a lawyer, so you know. There's 3 ways to create, long-term competitive advantage, right? I don't know if it's in like some book from HBR or whatever. Customer intimacy, product innovation, and operational efficiency. Those are 3 real good ways to drive, long-term competitive advantage. Forget product innovation, but think if I was able to offer a custom profile report for every new client of SMB law that was this long essay about their wants and needs and was taken from the kickoff call with Kevin, I know my customer better than my competition because I'm using this technology better, that I will do my deal with Kevin instead of with Kirkland Ellis or whatever, right? That's the first way, is you can use it to better serve your customers, right? Like you can take a picture of their garage, upload it into AI and show them what it will look like once it's cleaned up with a new epoxy floor. You're developing an advantage through customer intimacy. The second way, which I do a lot of, which is you use it to trigger a price war. Because if I can create the same outputs with a more operationally effective structure, I can slash prices, right? So an example, and somebody told me not to mention it, but whatever. There's somebody who just started an SBA loan writing business. I don't know. Like you guys all have to write business plans for your SBA loans, right? Yeah. and they cost, what's market, like 2 Gs, I imagine? Is that right? You wrote your own, exactly. So if I wanted to create an SBA loan writing service, I could do them for $399 with a little bit of AI. It would take me a couple days to build. So what I would do is I just whack the shit out of the market with my pricing. And I'd sit and I just rampage before the old guys figured out what I was doing, because they're paying Americans $48 an hour, and I've got just a little bit of AI, and I can create essentially a completely analogous end output, but I've got an operationally effective model that they don't. So I think about AI as customer intimacy or operating efficiency. Does that make sense? So that's like how it could drive in your business next week. Can I serve my customers better, or can I charge less? Both are extremely effective to developing advantage. Okay, so I talked about AI's level. Every one of my global talent, this is a Notion page. Whoever on bingo said, "Hold on until John reaches Notion." Got it. It's just a way to keep track of your company's knowledge. Every member of our global talent team goes through basic AI training, because if you have somebody in the Philippines, English is their second language, I don't want them ever writing anything ever that doesn't go through AI, because AI is a better writer than they are, right? So we teach them how to use it. So it's just table stakes for our global talent, because it takes somebody who's writing in their second language, and now they write like a community college graduate or whatever. I don't know like what the analogy would be. It's like perfectly passive, right? So, okay. That's Jermaine. She's from the Philippines, whatever. Do you think that she wrote that? Right? This is like from yesterday. Right? I built a little baby, very, very easy AI thing, and she puts her thinking through it. And now she writes good, clean, bullet pointed, and she edits it, right? But we've taught her how to use it as a tool to just create better outputs. So that's true. Okay, now I named something after myself. Matzner's hierarchy of leverage. So we're going to go through a couple of examples here of leverage. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? In case you didn't get the reference, my last name's Matzner. Maslow's hierarchy of leverage. We're going to talk through some examples here. Now, does anybody speak Latin? Or was an econ major?
Econ major.
Hey, do you know what that means?
All things equal.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk through some leverage hierarchies here. But remember, all things equal, meaning two companies in the same industry with the same whatever, right? Don't say, well, if it's a software, it's different, right? Okay, all things being equal, we're going to isolate some variables. 94% of lawyers in the world run their business like this, right? Or most businesses, right? This is how they run their business. Okay. Most businesses bought through ETA, probably like that, right? This is most businesses, a mix of the owner, I got an admin, I got a whatever, right? Some mix of local staff, owner. Smarter businesses these days are doing it like this. Owner, local staff, global talent. And the smartest businesses are doing that. Okay? This is how work gets done in your company. Now we're going to go through some thought exercises here around this Matzner's hierarchy of leverage. I gotta come up with, it's a little bulky, but I'll worry about it. Okay. Which company do you think is worth more? Again, all things being equal. No shit, right? Which one's more scalable? Right? No shit. Ask the former PE guy. More of the work is done by predictable machines, low-cost people that are easy to find and retain, and less people who sue me when I fire them. Right? Where do you command a higher multiple? Right? Right. Who's got better margins? Right? Now this is an counterintuitive one. Who can provide better service to their customers? Why? Because I get to use my local staff only on the real stuff, not categorizing files that get uploaded to Dropbox. I've taken all that stuff off their plate with global talent and AI and automation, and I get to use my local staff just to give foot rubs to everybody I install on Epoxy Flow, right? There's a phrase, John Seifer, who, as you all know, I have a man crush on. Everybody plays at the top of their game. And I think I have that on the slide, in case I don't. Everybody plays at the top of the game, including the global talent, right? Including global talent, including local staff, including the owner, okay? Goal, and jump the gun. Everybody, including global talent, plays at the top of their game. There we go. Okay, so your goal as a business owner is to drive things down through systemization. Because as you drive things down, systems are how you make sure that the quality doesn't degrade. So if I answer every phone call, so I'll give you a great example because we're going to talk about it a little bit. 5 years ago, if I wanted to write a memo, John, the owner, wrote it. I wrote it by hand, right? Then I have somebody who works at the front desk, Bob. Then I started telling Bob, hey, Bob, take dictation. Bob would write little notes for me, right? Then you sent a WhatsApp message to Jermaine in the Philippines with a voice recording, who's $20 an hour less than Bob was. Now I use Whisper API that perfectly transcribes it instantly. So that's one task that's moved from the top all the way to the bottom. Got a couple other characteristics here. Not everything makes it to the bottom, duh, right? But you want to get as much as low as possible. So if I get served with a lawsuit, that's never going to go past the owner. But categorizing photos of our latest installs and cross-posting them on different social platforms, maybe it starts at Global Talent with a remote social media manager, and eventually you can create a little bit of a system that has that done with AI and automation. Does that make sense? So your job is to drive things down, because the fatter the bottom tiers are in terms of delivering your services, all those wonderful, it's just a more fun company to own, right? That's why SaaS, right? What's more valuable, SaaS or a one-man brokerage? Why? It's how the work gets delivered, more skill. Okay, so I took our friends at SMB Logger. I just picked a couple of random outputs, and this is an example of how you would write the outputs that a small law firm does on the left. Then you look at good leverage, where everything is done by either those 4 categories, or how do most law firms do it? They have somebody who answers the phone, and they maybe have somebody check the mail. But they really can't, maybe, exactly, Kevin forgot to check mail last night. That's what made me think. But all these on the left are, I would just sit down as a business owner, you did a version of this, and I would say, what are all the outputs I did? I'd rank them all out. Output, tense negotiations on Zoom. Global Talent's never going to do that. AI is never going to do that. Who's going to do that? The principal of the firm, right? But the principal of the firm's also checking the mail. He bills out at $500 an hour, I presume, right? How much would it cost to have local talent? Global Talent's never going to check the mail, right? So you see how you can go through your business and look to build leverage across these categories. But look at most law firms and your business brokers, so I'll say business brokers, they've got somebody who answers the phone, right? Maybe a little bit of help on the edges, but they're never really driving leverage in their business. Okay, so that was just like the philosophical background of why I think about leverage and I think about AI. So rather than just stay in like la la land, I'm just gonna talk about 3 specific reasons. But you guys see why I want to do that, right? Like, what's in it for me as the overworked person, right? I think you all should be driving leverage in your business. So let's talk about 3 very specific examples of how I'm using it today to make more money. Or, yeah, I guess make more money. Or just have a better business. First, that's me and my son. We're in the French Alps, and I am working because I'm writing voice notes, okay? So we're gonna talk about how I do that with AI, but that's me hiking, that's the Alps, and that's my son in the backpack. Great example of how I build, a life I want with AI. So, voice, this is the way I'm doing it like crazy right now. So does everybody recognize, some of you might recognize, this is Zapier. It's an automation software, okay? So what I am doing here is saying every time I upload a voice note to Dropbox, I want to transcribe it, then I want to use this prompt on the right, then I run against the transcription, then I want to create a title for it, and then I want to put it as a task in ClickUp. So ClickUp is like Notion or like, or some other ones. What is Trello? Yeah, it's like Trello, right? So now I'm walking in the Alps going, hey, I need to, blah. I hit stop, I upload it into a Dropbox, and magically, through the magic of AI and the internet, it pops out in her inbox in a perfectly well-organized Kanban board, you know what that is. So then she gets this and starts, she hits confirmed received, then she does in progress, ready for review. So when I finally get back to the office, I'm ripping, there's hundreds of these, right? But I was doing it with my voice and AI and some automations. Okay? So that's an example right now of I walk with my son every day and I rip, right? I rip. Now this is just for an assistant workflow, right? So for like Izzy, right? You're driving. Do you want to open up Notion? And hell no. But if you could send a voice note, right? Easy. You can get stuff on here. Hey, by the way, can you send our new pricing update for this job, right? So that's the way I'm using AI right now is with my voice. Okay? And that's what the card looks like, by the way. Task, purpose, end state. You can make that prompt whatever you want. It could say, write me a haiku. Whatever you need to delegate effectively. Task, purpose, end state's from the military. It's a very effective way to delegate. That's what I do. Okay? So just task, purpose, end state. Change the flight purpose. I did this while I was, I don't know, in the bathtub or something, right? It doesn't matter. Okay? I do it for my watch, actually. Okay? So I have an Apple Watch, and I can record voice notes from my watch. So when I'm like body surfing out in San Diego, I record Dropbox. I upload it. So you just hit upload and pick a file. So what I do, I want to talk about it, is I actually have different Dropboxes for different outputs I want. So I have one that will create a draft email for me, one that will create a task for my assistant, and one that will create memos, which I'm going to show in a second. So I can just talk, which, if this presentation is any indication, I enjoy doing, as you notice. I just talk and get a lot of work done. So super high leverage. Small amount of my time and then it's off my plate. The reason I do this instead of sending a WhatsApp voicemail, if you've ever had like 11,000 messages and you're trying to keep track of them, and same as Slack, where Slack's terrible for project management. So you create a card, now there's like a ticket, right? So I use this like crazy. So 2.0 version of this, do that same workflow, but I have it create memos. And I actually have it look at the text and determine which of my companies it's applied to, the date, it gives it a title. It actually listens for the name of one of my members of the team, pulls that out and puts it in the spreadsheet, and then it creates a document link to my memo, which I'm going to show you in a second. So again, I upload it into my memos folder, and it automatically knows this is newsletter content, and it does something different with it than whatever content, right? So that's what the output looks like. This is a Google Doc that's automatically sent from me from my voice note that then I distribute to my team. So I'm walking away with my kid on my back, and I'm working, because that's when I do my best work, when I'm walking with my voice, right? So imagine doing this with your tow truck drivers. Every time you finish a job, I want you to send a voice note in this Slack channel that's automatically transcribed, summarized to a post-tow report, which you have to file with the city. How much time did you just save your company? How much more work is being done farther down that pyramid? That's like a silly example. So voice is a way I'm using AI like crazy. Okay. Second, data. So I took our last 75 hires that we did through our company, Second Passport, check it out. And I just uploaded them all into AI, and I was able, these are how many hires in the last 30 days, by what job category. And I can do basic data analysis extremely rapidly, right? Instead of, and all these were PDF forms through our website, basically. And I just exported all of them, put them all in one file, uploaded them to AI and said, make a chart by role type and quantity, right? A year ago, I would have sent it to the Philippines or South America and said, hey, do some basic data analysis. 5 years ago, I would have sent it to my California-based W-2, and 10 years ago, I would have done it myself. Same exact output, which is basic data analysis about what roles were hiring. Okay. Another example from this fine tree trimmer. Exported all of his calls because he's like, do I need a new CSR? Am I missing calls? So he exported all the data from his soft phone system and ran some basic analysis. Now, a really important point here is it's not automatic. You got to play with it then. You got to say, no, get rid of this field. You have a conversation with it. But imagine if you took all of your web forms and you were able to understand extremely rapidly, categorize the UTM codes, or there's just so much basic data analysis you can do. Here's an export of every business for sale in Florida. Take all of it, put it in a chart. I'm going to call it the Florida Business Buying Report 2024 and use it on my website to get more leads. Right? You can do basic data stuff. So this is all done with AI. And not like, nerd AI, like uploading it to ChatGPT and asking it some questions AI.
Yeah, okay.
You got to pay for it. Yeah, which is 20 bucks a month. Okay. Third, again, where was he missing calls, right? And then I don't remember what this one was. You wrote it. Heat map of missed inbound calls as a percentage of inbound calls. Now, can you very quickly figure out where he needs to put his CSR? Yeah, of course, right? Historically, he would have had to pay some data analyst $5,000 to do some analysis in Excel, and now we can do this. Great leverage, right? Imagine if you're doing this in your competitors. Right? There's all sorts of results. What's the average job sale per, I used to do this in our garage upgrade company. Give me the average job sale to lead ratio per salesperson. So I can see who my weak reps were. I'd export the data from the calendar, right, and I'd compare it to their close rates.
That's a new thing with ChatGPT to upload files.
Yep.
I was just having a conversation, and I
Yep.
paid for it. I was
$20 a month, yep, can upload files.
Once you pay for it, you turn on the setting allowing upload
Oh,
files.
there you
and even like a data set without slides, like no issues.
This is just a CSV export from that.
Yeah, okay. So get you back in the same format.
So I don't expect you all to like, you're gonna have to play with it. You're gonna have to learn, right?
Yeah, no,
But the reason why it's the whole first part of the conversation is it's worth it, right? It's not just sniffing around farts here, right?
I would say anecdotally, like if you start with Claude or reference to Claude, like I find the Claude is better for anything.
We're gonna talk about Claude in a second. Yep, we're gonna talk about Claude. So yeah, ChatGPT is great for data analysis. Okay, so think about how much you can do low-level data analysis for $20 a month. I can do, Chase was talking about marketing closeouts at the end of the month. He can run his last 24 months of marketing closeouts and reveal some really interesting trends. Doesn't have to pay somebody, it's $20 a month, right? Okay, so really cool data. Okay, now, good content creation. So this is actually Claude, it's not ChatGPT. So I'm gonna show you this. My prompt was, if you can't read that, write a short essay by Seth Godin. So Seth Godin, I'll tell you why I did that, is an author that I really like, about what cargo cults were in the Pacific, and talk about how there are cargo cult business people on social media. It's all performative, right? Does everybody know what cargo cults are? Okay, if you ever read Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, he talks about it there, which is where I got the first story, which is in the Pacific during World War II, planes with supplies would land in the Pacific Islands for some people who weren't really connected to civilization yet. After the war ended, essentially like out of tree branches and coconuts, they built an air traffic control station because they wanted the planes to come back. And it was basically correlation, not causation. It was performative. It was like they're talking to the coconut saying like, come drop off the supplies because that's what they watch the Americans do. But it was totally correlated. And so what I was saying was a lot of stuff we see on social media is performative. Oh, I cold plunge every morning, right? It's like, that's correlative, that's not causative. You don't have to make money in business. Buy low, sell high, right? It's not that fancy. So I had it write me a short essay. That's my Twitter, 28,000 views, right? I got an image of a GIF of a guy dancing in air traffic control. This is a longer post, but that was an AI post. I could cheat. Exactly. Now wait though, but here's why this is important, okay? So this is like, this number, whatever. I changed about 50% of the text. I did not just cut and paste it, and these are the changes. So how did I get this list, by the way? I put the original in, and then I put my edited version and say, make me a list of what the differences were. So these are the differences, right? My laziness will stun you, right? It will truly blow them up. So the new text uses more examples like cold plunges, more informal tone, right? These are the changes in the conceptual focus, right? End message both conclude with warnings, but I changed it, what value they actually, right? So I changed about stylistic elements, text is more structured. So I use that as my baseline for creating a post. And then I put I say that AI gives you boneless, skinless chicken, and it's your job to dress it up, especially when it comes to writing, right? So out of the original 20 sentences that Claude gave me, half were nearly unchanged and half were written. Is that AI written? Maybe, I don't know. Nick says here. I think this is my last, so 3 ways. Data, voice, writing, right? Those are the 3 ways I'm using it right now. Last thing I'll say about writing, we have a whole company that does this, which is the way I think about AI right now, it took me a long time to figure out, specifically for writing. The first 10% has to be me, the middle 80% can be AI, and the last 10% has to be me. So the idea, I was one of like, these bullshit influencers, they're like a cargo cult. AI, if I would have said, give me a great idea on Twitter, it would have been like, business success, like, gross, right? So I came up with the first idea, the first 10%, about running a TCOM firm is like herding cats, right? You're the only one who can see that connection. Then I said, write me a post. Then I took it and went, all right, it's like a little dorky, like, okay, it said delve too much, like AI has a bunch of different, right? And then I took the boneless, skinless chicken that helped me, and then I polished it up, and what came out was something that I'm very proud of, right? I'm very proud. So first 10%, last 10% when we're talking about writing. Don't just give the raw and post it, and don't ask it to come up with ideas because it's very tough. So that's how I use it. My newsletter is called Lazy Leverage, right? Where all I do is talk about global talent, AI, automation. So just Google it. But I write about this. I do I talk about specific techniques, like stuff that piques my curiosity. Last thing I'll say, who here is, I guess nobody's searchers in this room already, but yeah, okay. The last thing I'll say about this that I think is the business opportunity before I bring Nick up is for the next 10 years, people will pay you human prices for AI outputs. So I'm going to say that again because it's so important. For the next 10 years, people will pay you human prices for AI outputs. So I can still charge $2,000 for an SBA business plan with a bunch of charts and data. Guess how much that cost me? About $1 in API costs, right? The market does not know how powerful these tools are. So if you're looking in your business to drive product lines, if you're looking for innovation, if you're looking to start something as a side hustle, if you learn how to use mid-journey image generation, you can do unlimited graphic design subscription for $399, train somebody overseas to just use mid-journey pretty well, your margins are 100%. You have no marginal cost, right? There's no cogs there. You just know how to use the tool. So I think a lot about human plus software, or human plus AI, or human wrapper is another way that I talk about it. If you could put a human on top of the technology, you can build a human price, right? So there's a ton of money to be made for the next 10 years before everybody realizes, oh shit, writing 5 emails isn't worth $2,000. But there's a million businesses right now who will pay $2,000. And you behind your little desk with no money and a $20 AI subscription can write bomb emails for local businesses or law, plans or immigration applications, right? Think about how much bullshit gets going into a E2 business plan, right? If you know what that is. Okay,